Hello and welcome back. Today we are going over my top 3 favourite tanks and why they are my top 3 favourite tanks. I'd like to stress that this is based purely on my opinion, and yeah, so let's begin. In at third place we have Chroma, specifically Fire Chroma. Now, it was quite obvious that a Chroma was going to make this list at some point, somewhere, but why specifically for me a Fire Chroma? Well, simply, I am basing this list on 1. How much of a hit they can take, or how many consecutive hits they can take. 2. How they are able to cope with that hit, whether it be mitigated, reflected, or healed through. And thirdly, how they are able to control the area around them. Now with a Chroma, obviously you are missing one of those factors. That being said, the reason he's on that list, despite missing one of those factors, being the controlling the area around him, he alone is possibly the tankiest frame in the game, just by sheer armor manipulation and health manipulation. So, taking those 3 factors into account, obviously minus one of them, being a fire Chroma enables me that during certain points to heal more effectively. Now I could already hear a few of you going, but Arcane Grace, but Arcane Grace. Yes, Arcane Grace is great, and I do myself have Arcane Grace on my Chroma. But if your Chroma was at 100 health, would you trust that Arcane Grace to kick in to save your ass? Or would you rather just press 2 and be healed by, I think it's between 300 and 500 health points, which stay with you after the ability has run out. For me, Fire Chroma is a much more effective way to manage my health to keep Vex Armor going, as well as also mitigate that damage by using Vex Armor. Yes, an Ice Chroma can certainly take a lot more damage, but it's not as effective at healing, and thus my reasoning behind using a Fire Chroma. Obviously, because I am not an Ice Chroma, I am unable to take as hard of a singular hit. I have capped out roughly about a level 250 Corrupted Heavy Bombard. At that point, it's regardless, it's pretty much a game over. As well as I cannot sit in the fray, as it were, for as long as an Ice Chroma. However, even when playing alongside Ice Chromas, once we run from the battle, I am back at full health quicker than he is even at half health. So take that as you will. And when obviously then being back at full health, I can get back into it and stuck in where he's got to run around a little bit more, maybe drop a few health pads, or try and take the few stray bullets to try and kick in Arcane Grace, which, let's face it, isn't the most consistent arcane out there. So again, Fire Chroma for me trumps Ice Chroma. This is, of course, as I've already said, this is my opinion. If you prefer an Ice Chroma, by all means go for Ice Chroma. I prefer fire. What can I say? I'm a pyromaniac. Anyway, moving on to the next one. In second place, we have old Pocket Sands himself in Naros. Now, taking into account the 3 things I'm basing my tanks on, the ability to take a hit, well, 4,620 health, as well as topping up his 4th ability, puts you at roughly just over 700 armor. I'm aware this is not as much as Chroma, but still, adding in the overall EHP of 4,600 health and 700 armor, that puts you at just a little bit below my Fire Chroma's tankiness, as it were. Healing wise, well, you've got his 1 ability, which offers a little bit of health, and then obviously killing them with a finisher, which offers you a massive health bonus by doing so. You've got his 2 ability for either eating them, like slowly, painfully, gruesomely, because you know you're weird, or you can hit them with your 2 and then subsequently use your 3 ability, which kills them a lot quicker, heals you for a lot more, and then, you know, throws them around a little bit. Or you can use your 4th ability, you discharge 25%, you captivate a few in the area, and you can heal yourself as well as allies off of that. And then going on to the controlling the immediate area around them. 1 ability, everything's blinded. 2 ability, get over here. 3 ability, get away from here. And then you've got your 4th ability, which is just stand there and, dance. So, pretty much, Inaros hits all 3 of my categories. Now, one thing I do like doing with him is, again, I'm running Arcane Grace, which for me personally is great because of his high amount of health, and Arcane Grace runs off a percentage. When it does trigger, it heals you by a lot. I personally have stood there in front of 5 Corrupted Heavy Gunners at a level 145, and when Arcane Grace kicks in, they themselves at that level do quite purely not do enough damage to decrease your health anymore. Arcane Grace won't heal through it, but they don't do enough damage for you to actually have a health decrease at that point. Now, Inaros himself is quite deceptive because you have to sacrifice health to maintain your armor, and this can leave you in vulnerable positions, so you've got to play quite cleverly in a way. And the way I personally do that is I hide behind Zenistar, only poking my head out when I need to heal, or just, be a little bit of a cheeky git, or obviously move positions, because you don't want to be sat in one place for too long. Now, with all of the weapons, I utilise everything bar corrosive. With Zenistar, I'm using gas and electric. With Tilas Akbalto, I'm using radiation and viral. And with, I forgot what it's frigging called now, Javlok, there we are. I am utilising, again, radiation and cold. Don't ask why I'm using cold. Because it makes things slower, so I don't have to pay as much attention to aiming, or just in case I decide to launch the big stick at them. Hi-ho silver away. In all though, Inaros is actually a pretty good tank, and the only reason I've actually put him above Chroma, despite the fact that I'd say Chroma is tankier, is purely because I am actually able to outlast my Chroma in certain survivals. Against Infested, Inaros is, I would say, the absolute king. Against Corrupted, sadly to say, he's not even on this list, but I would say Nidus. The only reason Nidus isn't on this list is because he hits a certain point where he quite probably does not do enough damage, or cannot do enough damage at a certain point, whereas utilizing the blind stealth proc from Zenistar you will get through, and then obviously using the buff you get from Vex Armor on Chroma you will get through. I have trouble personally doing it with Nidus because he can tank a lot using his link, but I just don't find he can do a lot with it. Anyway, back to old Sam Pockets here. Now, despite Inaros himself having a massive health pool, this can lull some players into a false sense of security. Yes, he does have a massive health pool. Yes, he does have pretty darn good armor. However, if you play him a lot on low levels, you will feel like a god. And the moment you go into high levels, you will most probably end up buried in the sand. Pun intended. Purely because a lot of people seem to think that because you have high health and high armor, that you are going to be completely invulnerable. You still can die, and you still can obviously get very injured very quickly. You need to stay mobile or hide behind something, preferably. Your biggest problem, as with all, however, adding in the fact that he does have a spreadable crowd control, his biggest problem of all will be nullifiers, so make sure you focus those nullifiers and don't be afraid to utilize your third ability just as a quick piss off button. It is very useful and does not get anywhere near as much credit as a lot of people seem to just underestimate the overall ability. He is a great frame, he is a great tank, and he can go through enemies like butter up to a seriously high level, and I would say he is possibly one of the best endgame frames there is. Anyway, on to the final one. So, in at number 1, we have Old Bone Daddy himself. Oh my god, who saw that coming? Well, if you know me, you definitely saw that coming, And no, I'm not trying to be that biased on the simple fact that this is my favourite frame. Bone Daddy with Shield of Shadows is, for me, the tankiest frame in the game consistently. Why am I adding in that word and emphasising it consistently? Because Vex armour runs out. In Naros, his health will fluctuate between low and high depending on how you utilise his fourth ability, and if you're good with Naros you will be utilising it a lot, which does bring your health lower and then have to bring it back up higher. However, when your health goes high, your armour consistently goes low, and when your health goes low, you can die. Now, bringing your health lower does mean that you probably will have more armour, but then you're compromising armour for health or health for armour. Trying to find the correct balance, particularly in high-end missions, can be a bit of a nightmare. With Necros, all you've got to do is put high power strength on, despoil, equilibrium, and press 4. This will give you up to, at max, a 90% damage mitigation. If you're then using health conversion, that 10% of damage has to go through your current armor value, which at base you have 65. Add in the 3 stacks from health conversion, that's 450 each. That gives you a total of 1415 armor. I am also using Uneru. Not for the armor buff, I might add. I use it for the turning enemies to stone as well as the armor nuking it does, which I find very helpful considering the melee weapons I am using are slash and viral based. Destroying their armor, my overall hits do more damage, viral halves their health, slash procs finish them off. Anyway, adding in the Uneru armor buff anyway, this puts me at approximately 1422 armor. From that, you are getting approximately another 81% damage mitigation. So while you have your shadows active, you can get a maximum of 90% damage mitigation. Of that 10% coming through, you have a further 82% damage mitigation, approximately. I'm not too clued up on the math, but you know. So overall, from an initial hit, only about 2 damage is going through to me. Sorry, 2% damage is going through to me. This, for me, would by far make Necros the tankiest frame in the game. That's near enough a 98% damage mitigation. Add in as well the fact that the shadows actually have a greater threat counter than you. So your shadows are more likely to get hit than you. Again, utilising the fact that if you can manage your energy correctly using Despoil and Equilibrium, you should have no dramas doing this. You can maintain your shadows permanently throughout the mission. Obviously, I would say recommend that you let them die so you can respawn them and get stronger and stronger shadows as the mission progresses, but you don't necessarily have to do that. They probably will get picked off eventually, at which point you can just cast them again one at a time. Now, that's the tanky side covered. Obviously. Let's go for the healing side. Your Necros, press 3. Done. Now for the way in which he is immediately able to control the area around him. You have your 1 ability for those big hefty targets, the gunners, the bombards, the techs, you know, the enemies that will actually quite possibly cause you a serious problem in late game. Press 1, knock them back, deal with them when they stand back up as you clear the room. If that doesn't work, press 2, they will run away from you, as well as have quite a bit of their armour completely nuked. As well as the fact that he is also able to support your team. He can drop health, he can drop ammo, he can drop energy. And if you're like me and you're running Arcane Pulse and Arcane Energize, there is a decent chance that when you pick up a health or energy orb, that will provide 100 health or energy to allies within 20 meters. So play smart, play well, and you can tank the living crap out of anything and everything. You can support your team, you can crowd control for your team, and as well, if you look at my build in another video, I kid you not, my shadows actually do a certain decent amount of damage. I'm not sure if you just noticed, but that heavy gunner there just killed a crewman. These guys do kill. They can act as DPS. One of my favourite things to do is try and pick off the bombards and just have like a full bombard team and just watch them just nuke things. It can be quite funny. It takes a long while to do. You need to be really careful and just pick off bombards and let the bombards pick off everything else. But it is good, it does work, and it's absolutely fabulous to watch. So there we have it, people. My top 3 tanks. We have Chroma, Fire Chroma in at number 3, Inaros in at number 2, and a Shield of Shadows Despoil hybrid build on Necros for number 1. I love Necros personally. I think he's absolutely amazing. If I can, I would happily just play him for the rest of my life, but apparently he's not that loved anymore since his, I don't know, Oberon Prime came out, so no one cares about old Bone Daddy Prime anymore. Anyway, that's me. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you soon. Ta-ta!